All right, sports fans, how's everybody out there doing? William Martin coming at you one more time here on YouTube with another edition of the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge Podcast. It is that time of the week, folks, as I'm going to be breaking down all of the games in the National Football League for this Sunday and, of course, Monday night. In each of the first 2 weeks of this season, I went 11-5 with my picks. Last night, got things started on the right foot as I picked Buffalo to hold serve against Miami at home. I said Bills 30, Miami 20, and of course the final score would go on to be 31-21 in favor of Buffalo. Now, with that said, we've got some good games on tap for Sunday as well as the Monday night affair. They're all important weeks in the National Football League. Don't get me wrong, but this one is very important because the percentages as far as getting to the postseason drop every single week when you begin your season on a losing streak. Okay, like I said last week, we've only seen a handful of teams or less than a handful of teams go on to win the Super Bowl after an 0-2 start. All right, this week, heading into week number 3, we have 10 teams that are going to or came into action 0-2. And of course, Miami is already 0-3 after they lost to Buffalo. Now, unless the Giants and Chiefs finishes in a tie on Sunday night, we're guaranteed that at the worst, it's going to be 9 teams that begin this season, or 9 teams that still have a chance to not begin the season 0-2, or 0-3 rather. We have one guarantee out of that Chiefs Giants game. So let's see who's going to buck up this Sunday and try to get their first win of the season. And of course, the flip side of that, it's the undefeated teams around the NFL. And of course, Buffalo is the leader in the clubhouse, if you will, as they were the first team to begin the season with a record of 3-0. But nonetheless, between that and the backup quarterbacks taking over this week for the injured first stringers, let's see who has what it takes to win this weekend in the National Football League. Now, you got one of those undefeated teams facing one of those teams without a win, as you're going to have an old school NFL matchup, as the Green Bay Packers are traveling to take on the Cleveland Browns. And of course, for the Pack, they come into this contest favored by 7.5 points. They're also well rested because remember, the Packers played last Thursday night at home where they knocked off the Washington Commanders. For Cleveland, what can you say? They're going to compete. We know that. But the bottom line is, can the Packers find a way to get the upset? I think for Green Bay, or Cleveland rather, to go out there and get the upset, their defense has to be lights out, and it starts with defensive end Myles Garrett. For Cleveland, they've had the turnover battles, or turnover woes rather, in their first 2 games of the season. That cannot happen if they expect to go out there and beat Green Bay. For Cleveland to go out there and win this game at home, they have to play perfect. I don't think the Browns are capable of doing that. Thus, I'm going to take the Packers on the road in this one by the score of 27-17. Now we've got an AFC South battle as a 2-0 Indianapolis Colts travel to Nashville to take on the winless Titans. And yes, the Colts are 2-0 with Daniel Jones as their starting quarterback. And this is their first game on the road, the Colts, this year. But you know what? Indianapolis plays D, and their defense travels. And that's going to be imperative in this game, I do believe, as you have a solid Colts defense going up against a rookie quarterback for the Titans in Cam Ward. The bottom line is this D is real for the Colts. I think they're going to do everything possible to not put the game on the shoulders of Daniel Jones. And I think Indianapolis goes out there and gets the 23-17 win. Now, in a battle of backup quarterbacks, you've got the Cincinnati Bengals traveling to Minneapolis to take on the 1-1 Vikings. And of course, you know the news. Joe Burrow is going to be out for a while, okay, for the Cincinnati Bengals. So now Zach Taylor is turning to Jake Browning. On the other side, of course, J.J. McCarthy is now out for the Minnesota Vikings, and they're going to be turning to former first round pick Carson Wentz. Well, one thing we do know, both of these teams have two of the better wide receivers in the National Football League. We're talking about Justin Jefferson for the Vikings and Jamar Chase for the Cincinnati Bengals. Two college teammates. They're always trying to one up each other, and I think both of them want to go out there and put on a show. And of course, when you're rolling with the backup quarterbacks, it's on everybody else, offense, defense, and special teams, to step their game up. I like the matchups for both of those big time wide receivers in this one. I think even though we got backup quarterbacks, I think this is going to be a very fun game. The Vikings come in favored by 2.5 at home. I'm going to take them by 4 over Cincinnati, 24-20. Now in Foxborough, you've got the 1-1 New England Patriots hosting the 1-1 Pittsburgh Steelers, and of course, Pittsburgh, another slow start last Sunday in their loss to the Seahawks. They looked flat at times, and Pittsburgh should be very thankful that they're 1-1 because they have not played good so far this season. Will this be the week where the Steelers begin to click on all cylinders? We've got to wait and see. I'll tell you like this: with Mike Vrabel at the helm, the Patriots are 1-1. They already look a lot different than they have in the last couple of years. I think they have their franchise quarterback in Drake May, and they're starting to put this thing together. They're going to be competitive, but I like Pittsburgh in this game on the road, 23-20. Now, in a rematch of the divisional round last year in the playoffs, no snow in the forecast, so that's a plus for the Rams, as they travel to Philadelphia to take on the Eagles. And of course, these two teams met twice last year, and there's a good possibility that they meet twice once again. I think the key, if you're the Rams, plain and simple, you've got to try to go out there and slow down this Eagles offense. More importantly, you got to slow down running back Saquon Barkley. For the Eagles, they haven't played well so far this season. They have not clicked. I think as the season progresses, Philadelphia is going to get a little bit better each game, for that matter. But nonetheless, they gotta bring their A game in this one against the Rams, because I guarantee you Sean McVay is going to coach his team up. Philadelphia is favored by 3.5 at home. I'm going to take them in a very tight one, 24-23. Now you've got the 0-2 New York Jets traveling to Tampa to take on the 2-0 Buccaneers. And for the Bucs, this is their home opener. Tampa went on the road in their first two games, got a comeback win over the Falcons. Then this past Monday night, got that huge comeback win over the Texans. Tampa Bay comes into this game favored by 6.5 points, but they cannot take their foot off of the throttle. Why? Because first and foremost, the Bucs are dealing with injuries. Okay, but you still got Mike Evans at wide receiver, you still got Baker Mayfield at quarterback, and you still got Antoine Winfield, who in my opinion is the best safety in football, on your team. Now for the Jets, we saw them get taken behind the woodshed last Sunday afternoon at home, courtesy of the Buffalo Bills. Aaron Glenn is trying to establish his program in year one as a Jets head coach, and I guarantee you the Jets are not going to look as bad this Sunday as they did last Sunday. However, no Justin Fields at quarterback. You have a proven veteran if you're the Jets in Tyrod Taylor. And for the Jets, like I keep preaching, it's got to be basic football. They've got to go out there, they've got to run the football effectively, and they have to play solid defense. Now, throughout Baker Mayfield's career, he has a penchant at time for interceptions. So that means the Jets' defense has to be on point in this one. But advantage Tampa, and I'm going to take the Bucs by a touchdown, 24-17. They've got the 1-1 Vegas Raiders traveling to take on the 1-1 Washington Commanders. And for the Raiders, it's a short week. Remember, they played late on Monday night. That game, I think, started about 10 o'clock on the East Coast, and now they had to travel east. That was a home game for them against the Chargers. Now they got to travel east to take on the Washington Commanders, the well-rested Washington Commanders, who are going to try to do it sans Jaden Daniels. But again, you got a veteran backup quarterback and Marcus Mariota. And I think the most important thing for Mariota is go out there and play within the system. Trust the guys around you. I like the Commanders' defense in this contest. going up against the Raiders offense with Geno Smith. Thus, I'm going to give Washington the 22-20 edge at home. Now, in an NFC South battle, you have the 1-1 Falcons traveling to take on the winless Carolina Panthers. And it wasn't pretty at times last week, but Atlanta got their first win of the season. We saw their defense flex their muscles, and I think that D is going to try to do it once again against the youngster at quarterback for the Panthers in Bryce Young. Atlanta is going to be one of those teams, in my opinion, that as the season progresses, they're going to get better and better. And I think it starts in this game right here. I like the Falcons on the road, 27-20. Now, you have the winless Houston Texans traveling to Jacksonville to take on the Jaguars. And in spite of the fact that the Texans won this division last year, they're a 1.5 point underdog in this game against Jacksonville. The bottom line is CJ Stroud, a quarterback, has to play better. This offense for the Houston Texans has to play better. They have the talent, they got the tools, but it all has to come together. I really like this Texans defense. They played well enough to win in each of the first two games of the season, but of course that has not happened so far. I like Houston's defense going up against this Jacksonville offense. I think it won't be pretty for Houston, but they find a way to get the 23-17 win on the road. Big time battle in the AFC West as you have the 1-1 Denver Broncos traveling to take on the 2-0 Los Angeles Chargers. And for the Lightning Bolts, not only are they trying to start this year 3-0, they're also trying to begin this year by winning their first three games against AFC West opponents. De facto first home game of the season for the Chargers. Remember, week number one, they were in Brazil against the Chiefs. However, they were the designated home team in that one. And of course, the Chargers went on the road last Monday night and knocked off the Raiders. Now, for Denver, a lot of people, have anointed them as far as being ready to be Super Bowl contenders. And I think Denver still is a very good team. I think right now, what's hurting the Broncos, Bo Nix, their second-year quarterback, has been inconsistent. And I think a big reason why Bo Nix has been inconsistent is the fact that teams have a year's worth of game film on him, and they're planning for him right now. You look at this Chargers team with Jim Harbaugh, and Jim Harbaugh knows how to coach a team up. And it's not going to be pretty all the time, but the bottom line is Jim Harbaugh is going to have a team that competes. And I think game by game, more and more, this Chargers team is beginning to take on the image of their head coach. The Chargers are favored by 2.5 points in this game. I think it's going to be a very tight one. I like the Chargers at home by the score of 24-23. Now in the Pacific Northwest, you have the 1-1 Seattle Seahawks hosting the 0-2 New Orleans Saints. And of course, Seattle went on the road last Sunday afternoon and got their first win of the season over Pittsburgh. The Saints, they lost their first two games, both at home, and they've been very game and they've been very competitive under first-year head coach Kellen Moore. So let's see how things look for the Saints as they're on the road against the Seahawks. But nonetheless, I like this Seahawks team. They were good enough to make the playoffs in each of the last 2 years, but unfortunately, they fell short. And of course, they want to keep up in the NFC West, so they cannot take their foot off of the throttle in this one. Seattle is favored by 7.5 points at home. I like them by 10, 27-17. Now, in the Windy City, you have the winless Chicago Bears hosting the 1-1 Dallas Cowboys. And I'll tell you like this, I would hate to be at Soldier Field on Sunday if the Bears begin this season with a record of 0-3. You got a new head coach in Ben Johnson. He's supposed to be the guy to come in and fix quarterback Caleb Williams, but it has not looked good so far against for the former Heisman Trophy Award winner. If you are the Bears as a whole, you just have to bury that game film last week as they just gave up 52 points to the Detroit Lions. You look at both of these teams right now, not good defenses. Remember, Dallas gave up 37 points last week against the Giants, and the Giants might not score 30 points in a game for the rest of the season, okay? But nonetheless, if you're the Bears, you want to try to take advantage of that Cowboys defense. They really don't have a pass rush right now. So If there's ever going to be a game where the Bears offense comes together and it clicks, this is going to be the one. On the flip side, if you're Dallas and your quarterback Dak Prescott, you've got to be licking your chops as well because you're going up against a defense that just gave up more than 50 points last week to the Lions. This is going to be a fun game right here. I truly think so. But I think the Bears are going to be ultra competitive because, again, like I said before, you really don't want to start this season 0-3. And I like Chicago at home 24-22. Now, the winner of this game is going to be in first place all by their lonesome in the NFC West as you have the 2-0 Arizona Cardinals traveling to take on the 2-0 San Francisco 49ers. And for the Cardinals, it hasn't been pretty so far, but they've got 2 wins this season, albeit it's over New Orleans and Carolina. So if you're Kyler Murray, what can you do against the San Francisco defense? He's had some ups and downs throughout his career against the 49ers. Now, on the flip side for San Francisco, once again, no Brock Purdy at quarterback, which means that head coach Kyle Shanahan is going once again with Mac Jones. I'll tell you like this: the Niners defense, they've been like, I think they're starting to round into form under defensive coordinator Robert Saleh. That's number one. Number two, if you watched San Francisco last year, they had a penchant for losing the close games, especially when they had leads. So far this season, San Francisco has found a way to win the close ones. I think that theme continues Sunday afternoon, and I'm going to take the Niners by the score of 23-20. Now, on Sunday night, you have the winless Kansas City Chiefs traveling to the Meadowlands to take on the winless New York Football Giants. And of course, for Kansas City, you just have to ask, well, are the Chiefs falling off, or can the Chiefs really be this bad? Well, the Chiefs lost to 2 good teams, okay? 2 playoff teams last season, and of course, the Eagles are defending Super Bowl champs. But of course, Chiefs fans don't want to hear that. I look at Kansas City, and what they have to do, they've got to buckle up their chin straps. And I say this because they've got to come out with an attitude like, you know what, we got to go out there and set the tone on the team. And I know that Kansas City's dealing with some injuries, probably no Xavier Worthy in this game, but who's going to step up? I like this Chiefs defense. They've got to get back to playing nasty against a Giants team that's going to be very desperate. You look at the Giants, they are the last team, they're going to be the last team in the NFL this season to have their home opener. 2 tough losses for the Giants to begin the season. First on the road against the Commanders, and then the heartbreaker last Sunday at the hands of the Dallas Cowboys. And of course, if you're a Giants fan, you look at that offensive game that we saw last week with quarterback Russell Wilson, and you're probably saying, you know what, we can get that again. Not so fast against this Chiefs defense. Why? Because Kansas City, with the likes of Chris Jones up front, they can get after you. And if the Giants offensive line cannot protect him, there's not going to be a lot of deep shots down the field to Malik Neighbors. This Giants defense, they can't stop the run, but the Chiefs can't run the football. So something has to give in this one. The Chiefs really aren't going to start the season 0-3, are they? I mean, they come into this contest favored by 6.5 points. I think it's going to be a lot closer than that, but I'm still going to stick with Kansas City in this one, 20-17. And finally on Monday night, in a game that I feel could be the most exciting game of the week, you have the Baltimore Ravens with a record of 1-1 hosting the Detroit Lions, who are also 1-1. And of course, Detroit, they had that offensive explosion last Sunday against Chicago. Now they want to take it on the road. Easier said than done against this Ravens defense. I'll tell you like this: it hasn't been fluid so far for the Baltimore offense. Maybe this is the game where it gets going. I'm not sure. A lot of star power on both sidelines for these teams. 2 Pro Bowl quarterbacks. You look at the solid running games for both of these teams. But at the end of the day, I'm going to give the advantage to the Ravens at home by the score of 27-23. So, folks, those are my picks for week number 3 in this NFL season. And as always, I want to take the time out to thank each and every one of you for checking out the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. And as always, if you like what you heard and saw in this podcast, you know what to do. Just hit that like button as well as subscribing to this channel. Also, if you're on the X, formerly known as Twitter, you can check me out anytime at 300 pounds of sports. And like I always say, if you follow me, it will be my pleasure to follow you right back. And the same goes for Instagram, where you can check me out at 300 pounds of sports knowledge. Also, if you're on Facebook, be sure to check us out at the Sports Depot 365. And as far as I'm concerned, one of the better sports debating sites going on social media. But until next time, fine folks, my name is William Martin. I am signing off, and I'm saying thanks once again for checking out the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. Be well, everybody.